Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Jake Dreier with HiLabs, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure with speaking to Himanshu Arora, the Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. Himanshu, welcome.
Thank you, Jake. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to this.
Great. So I think it would make the most sense to just start as at a high level about your leadership in the data and analytics space. So would love to just hear your thoughts on, what are the challenges that organizations are facing when they're rethinking data strategies as a whole?
Yeah, happy to. And if we take a step back and take sort of a 50,000-foot view of things, data analytics is still relatively both a new function and still even newer function when it comes to being sort of at the table, being in senior level roles across organizations. And it's only going back to like early 2000s when the first CDO, CAO, CDAO categories of roles were established. And if I sort of look back on the lineage of the categories of focus areas or challenges, I'd like to compartmentalize or think of them in four, right? Which is structure, culture, nature, and nurture, right? So let me explain what I mean by each of them. Structure is about where you create the capability and how you most want to leverage the capability. There's many options around this, but just to sort of paint two pictures, organizations can leverage or choose to leverage out of the gate data analytics capabilities and more operational support areas, which is a very pertinent and applicable way to go about it. Or they can choose for it to be much more of a strategic function, right? And over time, we will expect that there'll be some bleed in from one to the other, but the choice of where you want and how you want to structure the capability out of the gate, that's a good one. Our organization made a choice for it to be much more of a strategic first capability and then bleeding it into the operational side of things. And that's worked out quite well for us. The other aspect of structure is whether it's a centralized capability or a centralized function or decentralized, or rather the model that we have, which is federated, right? Which is a mix between or a balance rather between a centralized and a decentralized capability. And in which essentially my function or some function similar to mine act as the center of excellence or the hub, if you will. And then there's different spokes leading up to capability areas, focus areas within the organization, right? So that's one set of considerations, challenges, if you will, or decisions that have to be made up front. The second is about culture, right? So which is many companies, if not most companies, have been adept at leveraging data analytics, particularly the data aspect of it in one way, shape, or form. As a healthcare company, we leverage data day in and day out, going back to 80 plus years of our foundation. And healthcare is very much a data dependent function. So then the question is, well, how do you now pull this forward into being a cultural element where increasing number of strategic decisions and business operations start to rely on data analytics? And I'm sure we'll talk more about the cultural aspect of it, but setting the right tone out of the gate, making that this is something that's co-owned across the capability area, which is data analytics, and the business areas is an important part of the culture. The third part of it is nature, and I use that word in terms of the native skill sets that are required for teams to be effective in this area. And this is where skill sets commonly known to us, right? Data scientists, data analysts, business analysts, data visualization specialists. So curating a team of individuals and mini teams, if you will, which specialized, and this work is part of core to their nature, right? And we'll talk more about, I'm sure, the idea of multilingual skill sets and multilingual personnel in the space as well, and our teams as well. Last but not the least is the idea of nurture, which is many areas in any organization already operate in a very adjacent capability when it comes to data analytics. So how do you nurture those areas to become more conversant with and an extension of the data analytics capability, whether it's centralized, decentralized, or a federated model? So those are the four compartments, if you will, that I think through about the capability.
Mm. And that actually serves as, I think, just a great backbone for our conversation as a whole. So I want to dig into the culture aspect that you laid out. And one of the things that we're seeing now is that data literacy is important for health plans at every level. Yep. And we're no longer at a point where data and analytics is reserved specifically for one team.
Very true.
So I'd love to hear, from you is how have you seen that impact the way that teams are composed, and what do leaders then need to do to be able to handle this overall shift?
Yeah, great question, Jake. One of the advantages of the federated model that we chose to utilize here is that the need for more parts of the organization to be conversant in data analytics is foundational, right? Mm. And what that essentially means is that you're not trying to do everything out of one unit or one organization. Rather, you're trying to use one organization, the center of excellence in our case, as the seeding ground for net new leading capabilities. Think data science, advanced analytics, machine learning, AI, sort of that spectrum. But the idea at any point in time, so let's just start with data science, is you curate these capabilities as part of the COE, but not just within the COE team. So this is where the operating methodology that we apply, and we use Agile Scrum, also becomes very important. Is data analytics is not something that's being done to parts of the organization. It's something that's being done with the relevant parts of the organization. So we have what are called analytics pods, and each pod is a composite of equal parts business acumen, so teams from individuals from business teams, analytics, data analytics acumen, so folks from my team, and then also technology, right? So the core IT capabilities, the platform, the data foundations, the data pipelines. And what this does is, from the onset, it creates a structure that serves as a forward operating base, if you will, in problem solving, right? So the goal is not just to build things that are cool, but the things that are cool and useful at the same time. And what we have seen, and I've experienced this firsthand here, is that, and by the way, we started this capability here, this center of excellence capability here with just team of one. I was the first person in the role, and starting from that that ground up, if you will, is that approach naturally creates both the need for, but also the desire for what we colloquially call data literacy, right? Mm-hmm. And part of the ways this does it is you show outcomes, and you show outcomes in our case in a very rapid basis. So every 2 weeks, the expectation is there is some incremental output for the teams to use, deploy, learn from, and then bake it back, right? So that really helps. Second is then when parts of the organization are focused this way, they become an aspiration of the work that they're doing and the outcomes that they're producing for the broader parts of the organization. So then you have to do less of a sell, it's more of a buy-in or a pull-in, right? Now, no journey is free of challenges or adjustments and course corrections, and we've done that. We've done that as well. But one of the latest things that we're in process of launching is what we are calling a data analytics development program, and this is a enterprise-wide program that particularly builds on the nature and nurture aspects that I talked about earlier. This is a recognition of the fact that some of our smartest business people are the smartest data and analytics people of the future, and vice versa, right? So the idea is to cross-pollinate teams over time, create that fluidity, and as a matter of doing that, then any, I'll call them add-on data analytics programs, whether they are training programs, learning and development programs, coaching or counseling programs, specific learning curriculums or training curriculums, all of which we have that mix in place, starting to get that mix in place. It is all a build on, but that foundation, right, where everybody in the organization literally has the opportunity to see themselves in a data analytic capacity, some way, shape, or form. And when I do talks and conversations and coffee and conversations with our internal associates as well, that's something I emphasize, right? This isn't just something a small group of people do off to the side. This is something we all do together. And then there's a central capability that's serving as a forward operating base, if you will.
Thank you for sharing that, Himanshu. And that's a great way to close this out. So for those of you listening, I've been speaking with Himanshu Arora, the Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Blue Cross Blue Shield, Massachusetts. Himanshu, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jake. This is awesome.
Yeah, if you're interested in seeing additional interviews, please visit cdomagazine.tech. And thank you so much for joining us today.